All right, everybody, we have from the internationalforecaster.com, we have the regular on the Alex Jones Show every Friday, and a regular talk show host among the talk show circuits regarding gold, silver, regarding fighting the New World Order and other various tyranny. I want to bring to you Mr. Bob Chapman. Mr. Chapman, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Outstanding, Mr. Chapman. I want to thank you so much for sending me the International Forecaster. And I highly recommend everybody subscribing to this, because this is where you're going to find the real news. Where do we go first here? Let's go with, do you have any discussions at all about the hot topic of the day, which would be the healthcare debate? Because I want to get into the banking holiday, but I kind of want to ease into it and go to another topic first.
Well, the President's medical reform plan has a lot of flaws, and that's pretty obvious to a lot of people. These town hall meetings that are being held by congressmen on their break, they're being met with people who are very frustrated about that, and they don't want to lose their insurance, and the older people don't want to be euthanized.
Right.
And there's part in there that talks about every 5 years a government bureaucrat will meet with you and tell you exactly how you can commit suicide in the most painless way if you feel like it. And, of course, people with chronic diseases and people who are extremely ill will not be treated. They're just going to let them die. And that's a fact. If you read it, you'll see that. And, of course, it'll increase the cost of medical care in the United States by about $1 trillion a year.
Right.
And if you look at the medical care that is given in Canada and England, it's not very good, inasmuch as the system is very poorly funded. And if you break your arm or get a cut in your face or something like that, you don't have any problem. But if you need an operation or have to get an MRI, lots of things that are easily available in the United States, then sometimes you have to wait long enough to get that treatment that you die in the interim. And that's why many people in Canada, as an example, say, gee, I'm not going to wait 9 months in that line over there when the doctor tells me that I got to be treated now or I might be dead in 8 or 9 months. So they go to the United States or someplace to get medical treatment and pay for it. And if they can't pay for it, I guess they just sit there and die. And tomorrow's issue of my publication, I have a letter from a lady in Canada, a businesswoman, who has lived under that medical regime all her life, and she tells a great horror story about it. And we've had many others, and I've had a couple of people say it's wonderful, but most of them say we'd rather have something else. So we're looking at a radical change in medical care. It's going to be truly disastrous, very expensive, and it's no wonder people are up in arms at these town hall meetings about this, and I can understand that. In fact, the model that was built upon, which is in Massachusetts, which started about a year ago, and I'm very familiar with it because I get one of the 36 newspapers I get every day is the Boston Globe. And they've admitted it's costing tremendously more than they anticipated, and it's not working all that well. So I don't think it's a good idea.
So how is it that these people are able to sell this upon the people? And not only that, but how is it legal for them to hire people from Acorn just to push people out of the way and punch them in their face and have people arrested? It's like I punch you in the mouth and then you get arrested.
Well, that's part of the syndrome that's going on within the American political structure today. The Bush administration was equally out of hand. They would put people into, like in New York City, they put them into pens because they thought they were going to, quote, riot, and they kept people in there for days. And I don't know that they were beat up, but I do know that they were incarcerated. So this is not something that's born of a particular political party. It's just something that is truly and overall wrong. And neither parties should be or should have been doing what they were doing in the past. And the past now, for the altercations is a couple of days with the Acorn people. And, how can a government program in this day and age finance the equivalent of the Nazi brown shirts? Because that's exactly what they are. They're goons. Right. And, do we really want our country run by people who hire goons? And I understand that some of the labor unions are involved in some of the cities. And Tampa, I saw an interview today, and it's just wrong. And, why would men from the labor unions get involved in such things? I mean, the Acorn people, I can see why most of them are unemployed. But this is a difficult situation. And I had a friend who was at a conference over the last weekend, and a woman was there from Russia, and she said, this is exactly the way it happened. Right. 2% of the population took over the whole country and ended up killing 40 million people, of their own people. And this is how it starts. And if you don't stop it, I'm certainly going to leave the country, that's for sure. People have seen this before. I've had people who lived in South Africa who said the same thing. People who lived in Argentina. And these were not things that evolved into wars like Germany did, but it's a terrible state of affairs, and you don't want it to happen, and it is happening.
So let me ask you here, Mr. Chapman, did Obama and the Emanuels and everybody else expect there to be up in arms regarding health care? Was this the summer of rage that they were talking about, or is it a much worse topic with because the cap and trade was bad, the health care is much worse, and then next on the docket, unless you know otherwise, would be the amnesty, which if they thought health care was going to be out of control, there's going to be some really big town meetings explaining amnesty.
Well, I think amnesty will come, if it comes at all, during this administration late next year. They're happy to have it the way it is. Nobody's bothering them hardly. And they just go on and try to make a living, and some of them leave and go home because there's no jobs, and there's no jobs at home either. And so I've noticed a flow back into the United States from the biggest supplier of illegal aliens, Mexico. And I don't think it'll last too long, but it shows you that illegals in the United States are having a hard time making ends meet, and some of them haven't worked for a couple of years. And so I think that's going to get worse. So that means crime will probably escalate, particularly in big cities, and places like Los Angeles and California in general will suffer badly from crime, because it'll force people, when they don't have jobs, to go into crime. And I know that's no excuse, but to some people it is. And so I think they're going to leave it alone as long as they can. And the cap and trade is another 20% tax to enrich Goldman Sachs, who gave $1 million to the campaign of the president. And in January, we predicted that the approval rating for the president in September and October would be about 40. and it came down from 67 to about 44 on the Rasmussen survey. And I expect that I'm going to probably be right on. He'll be about 40 in September, October, and I think he's going to go lower after that. And he's not going to easily get either of those pieces of legislation passed. Cap and trade is nothing but taxation. It's just the whole thing is just a large scam by the brokerage houses and the banks to trade these credits and make lots of money. And they don't care about the public. And the legislation, if passed by the Senate, will allow an enormous taxation.